Welcome to part 2 of our look at the Precision Farming free DLC on Farming Simulator 22 with me, MrSealyp. Welcome back to our look at Precision Farming, the new free DLC from Giants. What we're going to be doing in this part, hopefully we'll do it in part 1 and part 2. I'm hoping not to do part 3. We're going to look at all the various different processes and how the processes will work moving forward if you've got the Precision Farming DLC installed and selected for the map you're on. There's also going to be a little bit of testing going on, because there are a couple of questions I've got in my head that I'm uncertain about at the moment, and the only way we're going to find out all of that is testing. We've got a slurry spreader, I've got a liquid fertilizer spreader, we've got a mineral fertilizer spreader, we've got a direct drill seeder, we've got a non-direct drill seeder, we've got a plough, because that's going to be important, and we've got a weeder, and I think I've got a mechanical weeder as well. So there's a few things we're going to be testing out as we go. Now, if you watched part 1, this field here, we did our soil sampling. That is step 1 in anything you're going to be doing. You need to soil sample because you need to know what your soil types are. Everything else then hinges off your soil sampling. If you didn't watch part 1, I would obviously urge you to go and watch it, but if you didn't, you can do your own manual soil sampling using the Iceria Scout. You drive out, it gives you a circle, as you can see, bottom left hand corner on the map. Go over the field, part of the field you want, take your soil sample by pressing lower soil sampling unit, take soil sample, and it will do that, and you work your way across the field and all is wonderful in the world, which is what I did on this field here. If we go onto our map, you'll see that field here, we've got our information back, and that's telling us what our soil types are for that field. I'd already done this one and this one. On this one, on the previous episode, I did it buying a soil map. That's the other option. So as part of soil sampling, what we're going to do on field 41, we're going to buy a soil map. So if you didn't watch the first one, if I click on that, it says at the bottom left, purchase soil information. So if I press triangle now, it will tell me what's going to cost. 950 for 19 samples. And the service provider cost is 712. They're providing me with the mapping service. If I press yes, I get my soil map already done for me. I haven't had to do it. It's all very good. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if you just noticed, but that field there is sitting at an environmental score of 50, as was that field. Just by soil sampling, my environmental score for that field has gone up to 57, as has that one and that one. This one has gone up even more. So if you look at the left-hand side, where it says environmental score, that's overall for your entire farm. So for all the fields you own, all the stuff you own, you've got an overall environmental score. So we've got an individual environmental score for the fields, but then one for the entire farm. Now I'm pretty sure when I came on, it was either 50 or 55. I think it was on 50. Now the reason that's gone up again, that was sitting on 57 a minute ago, is because I've got another field now that we've improved our environmental score on. If I do the same on this one, it should go up again because that should go from 50 to 57. So if I click on that field, purchase soil information, that's gone up to 57. Now our overall environmental score has gone up to 60. So we're improving it all the time. I say at the moment we're improving it all the time, but we can make it worse. This one, however, has gone up even more to 72 because I've taken the weeds off of this one. So my weed work, weed management is the weed work. My weed management is very good because I've removed the weeds. The environmental score for field 43 has gone up to 72, which is brilliant. Now, that's the soil sampling part done. Next steps is where we've got to be looking. Now, I'm pretty sure I read that as part of the new precision farming that tillage plays an important part. Now, there's nothing showing up anywhere about tillage. So I'm going to use the direct drill. So I'm going to do no till on this. Now if you look bottom right, it does say field info. It's been harvested of wheat and it says needs ploughing. But we've been told ploughing's bad. This field next door has been harvested. It has been cultivated, but it does say needs ploughing as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plough this one, but not plough that one. I'm curious to see if by ploughing this, will my environmental score on this field come down? The other thing as well is, what do we do about our fertilizing? Because it does say you can apply slurry or manure straight after harvesting. That will give you an increased nitrogen level at a set level. All of the fields are going to require a certain amount of nitrogen. That is dependent on the crop type. But what it suggests is because if you've got cows, if you've got pigs, and you've got slurry and you've got manure, it's technically free. So what you can do is go over your fields with slurry, digestate if you've got it from the biogas plant, or manure, and you can give yourself a nitrogen boost in the ground already, which means that when you come to put your chemical fertilizers on later on, when your seed's in the ground and it's started to grow, that's more expensive, your chemical fertilizers. You don't want to be using as much of that anyway, so by giving it a bit of a boost now means it shouldn't need to apply as much later on. So again, what I'm going to do, this field, I'm not going to put any digestate, manure or anything down. This one I am, because I'm curious to see, and what should happen is when the crops start to come through the ground and then we decide to apply either mineral fertilizer or liquid fertilizer, the application rate on the field that already had some nitrogen done on it should be far lower requirement than the field that hasn't. This should take more. I mean, obviously the field sizes are different. I'm talking about the application rate as we're going along. It should give you, what the application rate is, in theory. So the first couple of steps then, I'm going to put the digestate down first, then I'm going to plough this field, because I'm really, really curious to see what impact ploughing is going to have on our environmental score. So first thing we need to do then, and it says top left, so nitrogen slurry application. Unlike the standard in-game feature when you can do a double application, because this needs to have an auto setting, and this is also now dependent on what crop you put in the ground. Each crop requires a different nitrogen level in the ground. You know what I forgot to do? Lime. I'll do this first, we'll plough it and then we'll lime it, because I think these fields also they need lime too. If we go onto here, if we go to our pH level, yeah, so our pH levels are our lime, so we need to lime these as well, which should improve our score as well. Liming, once you've done lime on the ground, that should last, like ploughing, will last for 3 harvests. It will get slightly worse each time, so your pH level will gradually get worse, but after the 3rd harvest you need to lime again. You can lime after each one if you wanted to. So what I need to do is get some lime down. So what I'll do is we'll put this down first. I'm going to hire a worker. I know it's a bit off the end, but that's fine. So what we should see as we go, bottom left, we should see that our fielded value, you know what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it on that, I think. So you can see already that our nitrogen level is improving. It's gone from red to yellow, but I think, as far as I can tell, I think we're putting just down a blanket application. It is applying it, but obviously it doesn't know what crop we're going to put in the ground. So until it knows what crop's in the ground, it's not going to know what it needs to be at the end. Like I say, the other field, I'm not going to put any down. I need to move that tractor out of the way, really. I forgot that was down there. So like I say, what should happen on the field next to us is it's going to require a lot more to be put down. Let's turn that on. It's auto applying. Actually, no, what it's saying there, it's not applying 80 kilograms. That's where it needs to be. Yes, plus 65, plus, yeah. And it's telling me what the application rate is, 18, 21, 20. So it's putting it on. And we are getting an application. Let's raise that up. And then what we'll do is we'll run the plough across, because I'm incredibly eager to see. Then what we'll do is we'll get our seeding sorted out. And like I say, this one will have been ploughed and then seeded. The other one we're going to do no-till, and we're going to do direct drilling and see how our environmental score changes. Actually, this should be changing our environmental score as well, shouldn't it? Let's go back to this page here. Our environmental score. Well, it's still saying 57. It hasn't changed by doing any of that yet. Maybe that will be at the end. It will probably come up with that. But if we look at our nitrogen level, you can see already we're making a difference, and it needs to be into the green, obviously, so that's going to be the final application. But again, you don't have to do this step. That's what we're going to show by looking at the next field over. We can just leave doing our nitrogen until the seeds are in the ground, the crop started to grow, and then we apply it. Doing it that way, we're going to end up applying more chemical fertilizer and costing us more. This way, we're getting a little bit of a blanket down before we even start. So what I'll do, I'll see you in a minute when this is down. I'm going to get the ploughing done the fields as well. So I'll see you when the ploughing is done as well, I would think. And we'll see whether ploughing the field has had a detrimental effect. Then we'll get the seed in the ground. I'm curious to see then what happens with regard to weed emergence. Whether or not we can remove the weeds with the mechanical weeder, or whether with precision farming on it's going to have to be done using herbicide. Again, I thought herbicide was bad. We weren't supposed to be using it. That was the point. We shall see. The next step, and I nearly forgot, is our liming. If we look at the bottom left and top left, you'll see pH value, lime application. Application rate is on auto. Now with a lot of these you can change the levels if you wanted to. It says change nitrogen reference value there, but obviously we're doing pH, but you can adjust them manually if you want to. I would question why you would want to. The automatic application rates are what give you the perfect balance. I mean, there may well be a reason why you need to, but what we're going to do is, let's get out. There we go. Hiring a worker will make life a lot easier. I'm just going to do the top and the bottom and I'll hire a worker. But you can also see bottom left on the map, it is now changing to a green. So from the yellow, we're getting a more balanced application rate. Our pH level is improving. I'm going to do the pH on both. I'm currently ploughing the next field over. I haven't seen a drop yet in our value. If we go and look at our environmental score and we go back to our soil types, still saying 57, 57, 57. Once I've done the whole of this field with lime, that should go up again. And I'm going to do this field with lime as well because they're going to need lime in, so I might as well do both. I'm hoping the ploughing doesn't have a detrimental effect. It'd be interesting to see if it does again. So it's kind of part testing. I know when all the stuff was coming out, I'm reading all the stuff, all the information, thinking, you know, if one part of it is telling us the field needs ploughing, but then the other part is telling us, no, don't plough, it's really bad. We need to go as much no-till as we possibly can. What side do you kind of come down on? How do you feel on that? So we'll see. If doing the ploughing now doesn't have an effect at all, and it's giving you on the field info it needs ploughing, then you might as well just plough it. If it does have a detrimental effect, then that's going to be a decision you need to make. How important is your environmental score for your farm to you? Is it that your OCD will not let you leave it if you want to have the best environmental score you possibly can, or are you of the opinion, well, I'll gain more from having a ploughed field? Because again, you'll take a deficit if the field's not ploughed in your yield, but will you take a yield deficit if your environmental score's lower? You know, and the environmental score is supposed to affect what price you get at market and all sorts of stuff. So, and that's going to be a fluid thing that adjusts over time. The only way to test that properly would be to pick the same field, run it without precision farming on, take your crop off of it, as you always would, take it and sell it and see what you get. Just have a look at the prices. I don't think there's nothing on there that gives you any indication that your price you'll get for your crop is better with a higher environmental score. The prices just seem to be the prices. I always thought it was yield based, but again, the reason why some of it's been a little bit, okay, it's a bit of a minefield, so there's so much information on all the various different things. When you think, let's just put a worker on for the moment. The previous version, FS19, we had soil type, soil sampling, we had the economic analysis and yield maps, and we had variable rate mineral fertilizing and lime spreading. But now we've got environmental score added in, crop sensors, variable rate seeding, variable rate weed control, variable rate manure fertilizing. So all these things added in, and there's all the information that goes with those. The environmental score, I suppose, being the most intriguing change out of all of them. And what I want to see now is, has my score gone up? Maybe it needs to wait for the whole field to be finished. Or is liming not going to have an impact? Maybe liming itself doesn't have an environmental impact as such. It's more a yield focused, I guess. And if you can see top left, it's saying target reached on certain areas, the pH levels where it needs to be. Application rate sitting at 0 at the moment. It's not changing. I don't think it's even recognising those little strips there. No, it's not. So as far as it's concerned, the field is done. Application rate is at 0 tonnes per hectare, and it's saying target reached for my pH level. So that's where that needs to be. I guess what I need to do then is go to the next field. So yeah, my environmental score hasn't changed for applying lime. At least we now know. Next is going to be seeding. And seeding, no, not yet, hang on. I didn't turn it off. Seeding is has the variable seed rates as well. And that's going to depend on the soil type. So as we start to apply our seed, we should see a fluctuation in the application rate for that. I'm going to get this going in just a moment. We'll start seeding the other field, because at least we'll be able to see the seeding process start on that. And again with this, we're almost across the field with regard to ploughing, and I haven't seen that environmental score change. Ploughing versus no-till, which again, I'm not knocking it. I'm quite pleased that's the case. I'm going to put wheat in both fields. This one is no-till. Top left, variable seed rate, again automatic. It says 0 seeds per metre squared. At the moment it's saying 0. As we apply it, it will depend upon the soil beneath. So if we look at our soil types there, we've got silty clay, we've got loam, and we've got sandy loam. And if I recall back to our where was it? So wheat on silty clay is going to be a high application rate. On loam should be a low application rate. So for most of the proportion of that field, we're going to see it change in this first strip. So it should be a high application rate, it should switch to a low application rate, and then on sandy loam it should be standard. So we should see that strip as we go across that field. We should see the application rate adjust top left as we go. Oh, MrSealyp just having a bit of a sneeze there in the background. So, top left, high application rate, 3 red across there. It should change and drop in a second. There we go. See it go down to 1, it's on green, low application rate. And then it should go to standard, which will put it on 2. So we can already see that variable seed rate, there you go, onto 2, it's on yellow. That's really cool. It's fascinating to watch, as you know. I know it's, you know, for most people they'll probably just get on with it. And depending on your field types, you know, if you've got a lot of fields that have got a standard or a low application rate, you should be using far less seed. I don't know whether it will balance itself out. I suppose it depends what fields you own on a map. And I am also curious to see now whether that's going to affect people's choices. If you've got precision farming on, are you more likely to go for fields now? But then the problem is you don't know until you've bought the field, do you? I was going to say, it doesn't tell you beforehand. You need to buy the field to be able to do the soil sampling. The soil sampling will tell you what soil types you've got. So until you know, yeah, I was going to say whether that would influence you buying. Are you going to go for fields that are always going to give you a nice low application rate for your seeding, or are you just going to say, you know what, I'll just take it as it is? Will it balance out across the entire map? Is there as much of the map that's going to be high application, as much medium and as much low? So will it all just end up balancing out across the whole thing? I mean, that's mega testing, but it's fascinating watching that variable seed rate. It's on green. It's going to be like when, I know my daughter's got an electric car, and when people are driving their electric cars and they're constantly watching their consumption, and then they'll adjust how they're driving and stuff, it becomes that thing you become fascinated with and obsessed with, and that kind of, I need to keep that variable seed rate as low as possible. You know, you're constantly watching it. I'm pretty sure then, as it stands at the moment, I don't think the ploughing has had an impact at all. The liming doesn't seem to have either. We'll see with our seeding as we go. There you go, 58, it's already improved. And our overall score's gone up to 61. That hasn't changed at all, so ploughing has not had a negative effect. That's good. Pleased about that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the other field limed, and then I'm going to get the other seeder. The other seeder's not a direct drill, doesn't need to be because it's been ploughed. Well, it was cultivated originally, but it's been ploughed as well. I mean, the thing of looking forward from this, I mean, this is the basics of, look, this is what you want to put on. So as you can see, bottom right, it says pH value perfect, it's in green. Nitrogen, bad, because we haven't put any nitrogen on this at all yet. So once the seed's in the ground and we get our first emergence, I mean, I think you can do it straight afterwards. Once we get our first bit through the ground, that's when we're going to then put our nitrogen down on this field. The application rate will be higher because we haven't nitrogened on at all yet. This should say, because we've nitrogened, it's in the yellow. It's still saying bad, but it's not red. Sorry, pH I haven't done. Nitrogen. Actually, nitrogen seems to be quite, it's not saying good or perfect. Right. So, next time I see you then, we'll have both fields will be limed, both will be seeded, and we should be in our first growth stage, because what I'm looking at then, in first growth stage, we're going to apply our nitrogen levels and hopefully get our nitrogen levels up and perfect. That way everything should be improving. We'll keep a check on the weed situation. If we get weeds come through, we'll try with the mechanical weeder, and then we'll try with the herbicide, and then hopefully our environmental score on all our fields will be raising dramatically. That field there hasn't been harvested yet, so whilst that field is sitting at 57, it's not going to go any higher than that yet, because I haven't done anything else with it. So, you know, again, it's going to be a rolling process, and your environmental score will rise and fall, because obviously as you finish a harvest, or your fields are ready to harvest, your environmental score might be sitting quite high. Once you harvest that field, I'm anticipating that will all drop again, because then you need to roll through the process again. So it's going to be a constantly moving, shifting situation. So, yeah. Lime on this, seeded, and then we'll go from there. How are we looking on the other fields? Yep, environmental scores up to 60. Improving all the time. I'm back again, and sooner than expected. A big part of precision farming is going to be paying attention to the field info and precision farming down the bottom right, and the menu. If you look bottom right, field info is saying needs plough. We know that. I didn't plough this one. I went no-till. But it says weed growing weeder. Now, I said about using a mechanical weeder. I've started. I'm going to do the rest of the field, because if I go to this bit now where I've used the weeder, that bit is now gone. The bit that says weed growing weeder has gone. So I'm going to weed it now with the mechanical weeder. So keep an eye on that, the bottom corner. If it comes up saying weed growing weeder, you can go for a mechanical one. Now, you might decide, I don't want a mechanical weeder. I don't want to spend ages going up and down with a mechanical weeder. It's not going to cost you anything in herbicide to do it this way. Now, I'm also curious, am I going to get more weeds come back later? I don't know. We'll keep an eye on that. But this field over here, the only difference between these two fields is this one hasn't been ploughed, this one has, is this one needs rolling, which I'm doing at the moment. I'm still carrying on with the same processes. I've rolled this one, that's why that one's not saying needs rolling. But this one hasn't got the weed thing. It doesn't say weeds growing. Weeder. So I'm really puzzled. It says pH level is perfect. And the other screen we're going to need to be paying attention is this one here, and all these different options. Now, if I go across and we look at our pH levels are fine, and on that field info it says pH level perfect. But here's the weird thing. If we go back to this level here and look at each of these, look at the bars, the blue bars, right? If I now press triangle, my environmental score overall will pop open. And it tells you what each of those bars are. So the top one's nitrogen, second one's pH, third one's weed control, soil sampling and tillage. So overall my soil sampling is really good. My weed control is improving because I'm just about to do weed field 40. And as you can see, it's gone up to 69 on there. That's still sitting on 57. That's only got one bar that's up, and that's soil sampling. My tillage one, I said the score hadn't changed, and it hadn't. So if I plough the field, I don't get an improved score, but it doesn't go down any further. So it doesn't take a detriment. My tillage score will sit as 6th, even though I've ploughed. If we look at this one and look at the bottom bar that says tillage, the bottom bar there is blue all the way across, which means by going no-till, it did have an impact. The other one, it just didn't go down. I was expecting to plough and it would go down. It doesn't. It just doesn't go up. So the other one went up because I did no-till. Now, the weird thing I don't get on both of those is I've done my pH. pH says perfect on both fields, yet my second bar down there is pH, and that hasn't altered. It says pH value 7.5, but surely if the pH level's perfect, shouldn't that be a better environmental score? It's a bit odd. I expected those to have gone higher. So anyway, weeding this field is going to make a massive difference. I'm assuming this one I'm going to get weeds later on. That as we go into our next stage, weeds are going to go. So what I'm going to do is let that carry on rolling. Nitrogen, we haven't got to worry. But also what's interesting with this one, oh yeah, that was the other screen I want to show. If we go across to that one, look at the seed rate now. So after we put our seed in, you can see those seed rates clear as day on the seed rate map. So that was high seed rate. That's low seed rate. That's why that one's done brilliantly. And then our standard was on that little bit there. This one's only got a little bit of high, but mostly low seed rate. And I barely used any seed on that, which is pretty cool. I'm happy with that. Overall, and I can't get, maybe there is an option. If someone has found it, I'm trying to find, like I say, if I click on that or go over that, it gives the bars, but it doesn't tell me what the figures are. It only tells me what the overall environmental score is for the farm. I can't find individual ones for those at the moment. Maybe there aren't individual ones. So our overall score's looking good. That's all good. So yeah, it's just keeping an eye on all of those, the precision farming, all the tabs, all the maps, and keeping an eye down the bottom right here. It's still keeping the focus. Now, that one says expected yield, because the soil types that we put in, both fields have got wheat. This one has been ploughed, the other one hasn't. This says expected yield 105%. Yield potential 125%. This one says expected yield 86%, but the yield potential is 125. Now that could just be down to the ploughing. The ploughing has raised that yield, expected yield up. So whilst no-till is good for environmental score, is it not as good for your yield? There's so much testing that can be done on all of this. You know, this is just a very general overview of these are the processes, this is what you need to do, this is how your environmental score may go up, may go down, you know, that kind of thing. But as far as drilling down onto the real, I mean, this is a numbers game. It was the same on FS19. There's so much information, and you can really go deep on the numbers on this. And looking at, I mean, again, you need a like-for-like field. I'm just looking at a few basic changes, a few different options. It's interesting to me to see that the only difference between these two fields is ploughing. Yet one says it's got weeds growing that need to be got rid of. The other one hasn't yet. But by the time this has all been weeded, and like I say, so the next step will be, first growth stage, we'll do our nitrogen levels. They should then be perfect, which should improve our score even further. And then it's going to be a case of seeing what weeds come up. Are we going to get weeds appear on this field? Or now that we've done this, we've weeded it, will they not come up? And the other field that doesn't say it needs weeding, are we going to get weeds appear later on? It certainly means you've got to stay on your toes. You really have got to pay attention to everything that's going on. I think it does add a much deeper feel and much deeper immersion and so many more facets to the game, you know. But again, this is, I wouldn't say for your die-hard farm, anyone can use it. Of course anyone can use precision farming, but there are going to be people that just will be of the opinion, I just want to go on and play. I want to play the game. I don't necessarily want to go this deep with it all. And you don't have to. You don't have to have precision farming on, of course you don't. But you can have precision farming on, and as long as you're not overly fussed about your environmental score, you don't have to do all of these processes. Of course you don't. I've never been quite sure if you turn ploughing off and you turn weeds off, because there's still an option. If I come down here, we still do have the option. Where are we? On this one, crop destruction is off. Periodic ploughing is on, and weeds are on. If you turn all of those off, do you just get kind of an average across the field? Will it give you an average score? Because obviously with those turned off, you can't affect whether or not you've got good weed control or not, because you haven't got weeds growing. Or will it automatically set you at a deficit because you haven't? Again, more testing. It's so much more to it than this. I'm hoping this will just give you an idea of what you need to be doing and then kind of go from there, really. The only downside with weeding, I still find, when you haven't got weeds in the ground, and this is why this particular one is a bit peculiar, is you can't see where you've weeded already. I'm not sure I'm going to miss bits here, which I may get bits pop up. Our growth is fine, soil composition, weed, yeah, there's nothing showing. If you're ever on the standard setting, not precision farming, that one, the one that we're used to having, that field there, you see where it says soil composition, it says weed, that's got weeds in it already. This one, whilst it is telling me under precision farming I need to do weeding, and I'm doing weeding, they're not actually showing yet. So, see you later. We'll have some crops growing, we'll sort our nitrogen out, and we'll check the weeds again. And then it'll be a case of letting it grow through. I mean, hopefully that should be all the steps to get you where you need to be. It's just a little bit of weeding if you need to do it. There is yield potential there that can all be adjusted and fluctuate. And again, I'm not, I'm doing two separate fields here. This is not a scientific test. This is just a very basic, here's what we've got. I think I do understand it far more than I did when I did my first video as an FS19. It was a minefield. I mean, it's still a minefield now, but the fact that I'm more au fait with the automatic application rates now, and the fact that you can put those on, you can adjust them manually, but you can leave those all automatic, that it will do it for you. The reason I liked using precision farming when I did Attingham Park, I found it used far less fertiliser, far less lime, far less seed, which is the whole point. The whole point about the automatic application rates, the whole point about sensors, the whole point about soil sampling is to give you a more accurate overview of your fields, of your farm, and for you to use exactly what you need to, not too much, not too little. Goldilocks fields, just right. A month has gone by, we have our first emergence. This was completely weeded, as you see it doesn't say it anymore. This one still isn't saying there are weeds growing, which is fine, happy with that, but now we're on to our nitrogen. Now it's possible that you could have put your nitrogen down straight after seeding. I didn't want to do it that way, I wanted to wait till we had some through the ground, just to make absolutely certain. Both the fields are wheat. Once you put the wheat into the ground, it knows it's wheat, but I wanted to just make sure we got some growth. Now, as you recall as well, this field had a digestate or a slurry put on it first, so the nitrogen level on this should be a little bit higher than this one already. If we go to our screen and we go to our, there we go, precision farming, and we scroll across our soil types, our pH levels on both are looking great. As you can see, that one nitrogen level is better than that one because we've already put some down. So in theory, we shouldn't need as much application rate, shouldn't be as high an application rate on this field as it is on this. We can do liquid fertilizer, or we can do solid, and this is where the sensors come in, because this is going to adjust everything, our nitrogen levels, depending upon our sensors. So we've got our active sensor, the one that will work day and night, this one I've got with the weight on. We've got our passive sensors, the ones that are up on the mirrors, that will only work during the daytime. I've got one on the solid fertilizer, one on liquid fertilizer. And what should happen, as we put these down, it should be, I've got it on automatic application rate as well. This is out to 42 meters. This one should have a slightly higher application rate, although it is. What I'm going to do is I'll do one strip of each, I think. Trying to get the distance just right. Let's let that go down the field. So that application rate is 592 kilograms per hectare it's putting down, and that's to take it from no nitrogen at all up to where it needs, 703, 722. It's gradually, it's adjusting the whole time, but it is adjusting for one strip down. What I will then do is I'll take this, we'll take it over to the other field, we'll do one strip, and we'll see what the application rate is. It should be lower because it's already got nitrogen on it, in theory. Should have gone through the gap there. It doesn't matter on the size of the fields, doesn't matter on how long a field is. It's just going to let me have a rough idea of what the application rate will be. I think we'll be alright about there. And it should be lower across the whole field because it shouldn't be putting as much down. As you can see, 444, 370. The other one's up in the 700. So adding that first application of digestate, using manure or digestate first, means I'm using far less mineral fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, that you have to pay a lot more for now. 388, 370. I know the soil types are a little bit different. I totally understand that. That will have an impact as well. But I'm using far less of my chemical fertilizer, having done the first application. So it's entirely up to you how you go about it. You might just decide, you know what, I don't mind, I'm going to buy cheap chemical fertilizer and we'll just run it anyway. Or you might decide, I've got loads of slurry and digestate, I might as well put one down before I do anything else. That way I'm using less on my final application. That's absolutely fine. If we go and look at our map now on our nitrogen, so our nitrogen levels are more where they should be. If we go across one to there, at the moment they're still sitting the same. I'm puzzled as to why the top two, nitrogen and pH, maybe I need to do the whole field, but on both of those I'm not getting any increase having done nitrogen or lime. Whether or not those two fields, because we own all of these, you've got to remember as well that our overall score is for all of the fields we own, because I haven't done anything to that one yet, or that one. I did weeding on that one, but that's all I did on that one. So I guess, yeah, that could be why it will bring the overall score down. And then obviously the other option is if we do liquid fertilizer, which will do exactly the same thing. This has got the passive sensors on it, but it shouldn't be any different. It will still recognise what's on the field, and it will apply it as necessary. Again, the application rate on this should be fairly high compared to the other fields, because it's trying to go from no nitrogen in the ground up to the level it needs to be at. So let's just see how that goes, shall we? Let's do a strip down. (423 litres per hectare). Bearing in mind this is only 33 metres wide, the other one's 42, so but 500, 487. Yeah, it is adjusting and it is doing what it needs to be doing, but it is automatic application, and we're getting our nitrogen levels where they need to be. I'm going to do the other fields as well. I'm going to do another strip on that one just to see how much lower it is there. I mean, we're averaging around 500 at the moment-ish, I would say. And then, of course, what I'll do is I'll skip through another month, maybe another month or two, and we'll see where we stand with regard to weeds, because I'm hoping that because I weeded this first, I won't get any. I'm assuming, and it is an assumption, that I'm going to get weeds coming to the other field later on because there was no weeding done. Ploughing isn't weeding. If anything, when you read all the information about it, the Giants posted, ploughing apparently brings the seeds from the weeds that are in the ground up to the surface, and it can make weeds far worse. So let's see. This should be a lower application rate than 500 or 480s or whatever it was. There you go, 192, 205, 217, at least half the application rate of the other one. Like I say, it doesn't matter on the length of the field, on the other field it was hitting 500s, 487s, 480s. This is 256, 250, 260, went up a little bit there, but still not up around 500. So doing that pre-nitrogen with our digestate or slurry or manure, if you've got manure, definitely lessens the amount you need to do now. So there you go. Now we know. I'll get the rest of these done. Leave that running for a moment. Yeah, our score hasn't improved. I am kind of puzzled why that has not adjusted. Our nitrogen levels and our pH levels now should be perfect on both fields, which means those scores should have gone up on both of those and haven't. The weed one on that one as well only went up so far and then stopped, which makes me wonder whether I'm going to get weeds coming to this one later on. So I'm trying to work out, if I look at that, I've done the nitrogen, I've done the pH, I've done the weed control, done the soil sampling, and I did no till. That one should be much, much higher, field 40, on my environmental score. I'm not sure why it's not. Let's have a look here. We come over, so look bottom right, nitrogen, pH value perfect, nitrogen perfect. Expected yields now saying 123% of a potential yield of 125. So we're almost at where we need to be to get perfect yield from this field. And then if we go to this one, it does need ploughing. Potential yield of 94% out of a yield potential of 100, it's saying. Obviously depends on the ground type. 117% from 125, so actually not bad. So the fact our pH level's perfect, our nitrogen level's perfect, the only difference being it hasn't been ploughed. So why it's not giving me anything else I need to do? Why is my environmental score not higher on those two fields? I'm sure people will have 1,000 to 1 different theories as to why that is the case. And when you bear in mind as well, this field here, I got the field as it was with a crop in it. All I did was weed it with herbicide. That went up to 72. I've done all the other stuff, lime, perfect pH, perfect nitrogen, soil sampling, 0 till, and that's only a 69. Why? So, next time I see you then, the only thing left is weeds. I mean, realistically, the only thing left is weeds that's going to be having an effect. So I'll let the crop grow through to ready to harvest, because I'm wondering whether or not it will improve based upon the crop growing, or yeah, I'm slightly baffled at this point, I'm not going to lie. But with an automatic application, there's not much else I can do. I don't want to over apply. It might just be for those particular soil types, that's the best I'm going to get anyway. And this is why, for me, I knew this would happen. I knew as soon as it all sort of was being released and there was the stuff said about environmental score, I knew that that would drive me insane. I knew that my mind would be freaking out trying to get the best environmental score and trying to work out why it wasn't and what do I need to do to get, trying to constantly push for that 100 score you're trying to get. There is another screen. I've got to remember when I edit. And it says, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Right, it says, and I'll put up on the screen now if I remember. So, environmental score, 100 points total. It says maximum 15 points for soil sampling. Maximum 30 points based on nitrogen levels. Well, my nitrogen levels are now perfect, so maximum 15 based on pH value. My pH levels are perfect, so I should have at least another 45 points. Doesn't make sense. Maximum 10 points for reduced tillage, 10 points for minimal tillage, direct seeding, which is what I did, 5 points for shallow, and 0 points for ploughing. So that's why. You don't take a deficit, it just goes to 0. So this field was 0. And then maximum 30 points for weed control, 30 for spot spraying, 20 for mechanical weeding. So why? That doesn't make any sense. Why is it less for mechanical weeding? If I mechanical weed, I haven't used any herbicide, no spray. I suppose because it's more fuel, you're taking longer on the field. I guess they're just trying to balance out. 15 for spraying the whole field, so if you don't spot spray, and 10%, and you only get 10 for no weed control at all. So let's see what happens with regard to weeds. I'm just going to make sure I've got each of these fields completely covered. Let's see when we got some weeds. The other bits, like I say, it's got me slightly baffled why we haven't got a better score than we have, because we should have a better score. I have rolled around to ready to harvest. I never got any more weeds in this field here. I never got any weeds at all in this field here. All I can say is I hope you have better luck than I do. The other thing I will add is when you're in this screen here, and I haven't shown it till this point, and I probably should have done, my environmental scores, that I don't know whether there's going to be an update, I don't know if it's the map, I don't know. This isn't a map I was already playing on. I came on here, started on here, I'm on Obeleron with precision farming installed and selected. I haven't got any patchy weeds anywhere, according to if I go up to this one. These fields all just say weeds, just across like the whole fields, but not all of the fields are showing weeds. Bearing in mind I've skipped forward, which again I'm not sure. Yeah, didn't get any on these fields here during growth. I'm not sure why. We did our soil sampling, our soil info, we did our pH level to perfect, we did our nitrogen to perfect, which according to the environmental score should have improved our environmental score per field, if not overall, because like I say, we've got a lot of fields that we own. Our yield potential has come out fine. It's actually come out better than I thought it was going to. Our seed rate versus soil type is there. These just should have been higher. The blue bars at the top for nitrogen and pH on both of those should have been a lot better. Weed control on that one should have been higher because I did the whole field, cleared it. So yeah, I don't know why that was the case. That seems very strange. But what I was going to say was, with all of that being said, we went through all the processes, all the steps you had to do, including early slurry spreading of nitrogen if you want to. We looked at ploughing versus non-ploughing, so no-till, till. We put lime down, we did the seeding, we looked at the sowing and the variable seed rates depending on the soil type. We then waited for that to grow a little bit, and we got our nitrogen levels down. So we've got our nitrogen levels exactly where they needed to be. We did all the steps. I did a bit of weeding in part one of like with herbicides. If you didn't see part one, and then nothing else really changed after that. I definitely think these two scores should be higher. I'm not quite sure why they're not, because like I say again, with that one, all I did was weed, and the score's higher than this one and that one, which we did nitrogen and pH. So. Not sure, but if you're stuck at all, if top right, if you press your paddle and you go to help, there's a whole new section here for precision farming. So there's general information about precision farming, and it goes through all the different things, all the different sections. Like if we go here to pH level, it will tell you the target pH levels per soil type. But if you've got it on automatic application, you don't need to worry about that. It will do it itself. If the pH value is not optimal level, the yield decreases. Depending on the soil type, the pH level decreases after every harvest, so then you'd have to adjust it. Nitrogen value, we looked at that. Yield map, we haven't really, because we haven't harvested yet. So once harvested, you'll have a yield map and it will tell you where you yielded better. That often follows where the soil types are. Variable seed rate, we looked at that. We talked about those different screens. We control via spot spraying. I haven't had weeds come up in spots. I don't understand why. I've got weeds on which I never normally run, and it just hasn't worked that way. The manure nitrogen sensor, we had the manure spreader with that on, and we did we put our nitrogen on early on that one field, and that worked. Crop sensors for the rest of the fertilization, we did it with passive and active. That worked. Environmental score, not sure. Don't know what's happening there. Yeah, if you look at the picture there, it shows the nitrogen and pH levels both raised. Mine haven't. Economic analysis, that's for your number crunching. I'm not going to touch on that. It's a bit of a minefield. And I will say it's a bit of a minefield. That's for your average layperson. There will be your mathematicians, there will be your people out there who will say, oh, it's really easy to read. I'm not saying it's not easy to read. For some people it will be, for some people it won't be. It's a bit of a minefield. It just gives you information on, the various different, we can have a look. There we go. So for each field, if we click on the field, it will tell us the soil samples that were taken, how much that cost us, the line put down, the mineral fertilizer, liquid fertilizer. It will tell you all the stuff, whether you did manure or slurry, and then your seed and everything else, and what your total outgoings were, your total costs. And then obviously when you do your harvest and you've got all your harvest in, it will tell you what your total earnings will be, and you can see, what you've applied, where it boosted. If you get better prices for your crops, that's great. There's not really much else I can show you with regard to that. All I can say is maybe it will get an update, or I can't fathom anything I've done wrong. I followed all the steps. I've done all the things I was supposed to do. So yeah, I'm a bit puzzled as to why those environmental scores haven't adjusted. But that being said, as far as the crops go, if I go onto the field, if we look at the soil type, so at the moment we are on. Let's go to there. Let's take that off, and we look at our field here. So our soil type at the moment, we're standing on loam, and for our loam, it's saying expected yields 117% of a yield potential of 125. I think that's down to the ploughing. If we go across to our bit that's silty clay, expected yield 84%, yield potential 89. We're not far off between what the expected and the yield potential is, and that's because wheat on silty clay just doesn't yield particularly well, even when you've done everything. If we come across the field where we did plough, and you'll see that on here, yeah, expected yield 123%, yield potential 125. So regardless of our environmental score, and that's the problem, my mind's focusing on the environmental score. As far as everything we needed to do to get the yield where we wanted it to, we're almost there. We're pretty much spot on. Everything's perfect. We should get the yield that we're expecting, which isn't that where you need to be? That's where you need to be. So that's it. That's it's a kind of overview. It's a look at a step by step of what you need to do when using precision farming. There's a lot more deep dive stuff, and there's probably tons and tons of testing that can be done. I'm not saying I'm going to be doing it, but it can be done, and I'm sure there are lots of people out there who are going to crunch the numbers. They're going to do loads and loads of tests that are going to look at base game and look at this and look at the options between the two. And it's here. It's an option to play with. It adds a lot more immersion. There's a load more stuff to use. There's a load more steps to be put into place. Am I going to be drawn into this to do weeding? I'm still not convinced. If on another map I started to get, I was really hoping I would get spots of, little clusters of weeds, and it just didn't happen. But I was hoping it would. But that's not to say it won't on other maps, and it won't for you. I hope you found this useful and informative in some way, shape or form. If you have, please give us a like. If you don't subscribe yet, please do. If you want to leave a comment, feel free. And if you want to share this video, then please be my guest. Whatever you should choose to do. As always, thanks for watching.